and online. I don't know what camera we're using, but yeah, great to have you. So if you're joining virtually, please do use the chat to communicate with us. We've got somebody on hand to help ask or answer the questions as well. Thank you for coming. First of all, this is a little bit different to usual. So usually we run reactor meetups. This is very much an event dedicated to AI. If you can't already tell, it's called the Quick AI Decode, and it's going to be a really fun event full of all things AI. Before we go, I'd like you to all read code of conduct. It is super important to us to adhere to this. Please just be kind, be friendly, ask some really nice questions, and just be kind to one another because we're all here to learn. Maybe for just a few seconds. If you have any questions around this, or if anything you think someone said something horrible, you won't. If you do, come and speak to one of us, and we'll help sort that out. And likewise to everybody online, if you are using the chat, please just be kind. So some house rules. Now, this doesn't really apply to anybody online, but for those of you in the room, no food and drink inside this auditorium, please. We are on floor 5, not floor 8. This is not reactor. This is a corporate floor. So it's a really awesome event space. Thank you. And they would really appreciate it if we didn't spill any drinks. I can see a few again. It's fine. Fire exits through that rear door over there. So, God forbid, the alarm does go off, just run that way. Follow the green signs, follow the fire exits. The toilets are by reception, so outside that rear door, turn right and carry on going straight down. So if you have been to the reactives, like you see many places in the room, same place on the floor just below. And finally, you spoke, we listened. The breaks are a little bit longer today. So we have 45 minutes for you to network and enjoy some food and really chill out and just enjoy your time tonight. The agenda, what are we going to be doing? So I'm not going to go through all of this because there's actually so much going on today. But the gist of it is we've got a bunch of lightning talks all about AI and Microsoft for startups. We've also got a fantastic panel with MVP host Darshna and 2 founders who are part of Microsoft for startups. They're going to give you some really interesting insights into what's going on and what we do here at Microsoft with entrepreneurs. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get into it. So I'm going to be speaking first on the spark of innovation with AI, the spark of innovation on regardless. So who am I? For those of you who haven't met me, my name is Hampton. I'm a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft. I work in the dev tooling team, and I focus on things like Decode or Copilot or the Azure CLI, so really cool development tools that you may or may not use if you do Microsoft services. I'm an Austrian ambassador, and I have fun thinking about security. That's really important. So what is AI? That's a question which I'm getting asked so many times now. And I'm going to ask you, who in here, I'm not going to put you on the spot to explain, but if you think you know what AI actually means. Alright, front hands. Good. Interesting. So many people, so many companies have muddied reporting. AI, if you thought about this 5 or 6 years ago, it was pretty simple, I think, pretty clear. People knew what AI meant. Now, I don't think I do. And I'm on a learning journey with you. So I Googled it, and I came across McKinsey. And McKinsey, for those who don't know, does a lot of research. And they wrote this wonderful sort of abstract. Artificial intelligence is a machine's ability to perform the cognitive functions we associate with human minds. I thought that was pretty scary. I don't know about you, that sounds pretty terrifying to me because I don't like that aspect of it. I like to think of a machine as a machine and a person as a person. But when you try and put both together, that's when you start to think about AI. Can or should something really imitate a human? That's the big question mark which I hear. How many of you know how long AI has been around? Just shout. 50 years? 70. 70 centuries. Alright, 70 years. 1950 is when we started to think about AI. And that was the Turing test. And that was pretty much just a sort of theory. So, can a machine think like a human? If it does, then, it's artificially intelligent. Wrong with that. We've come quite away from hypotheses. We've come quite fast now. As you see, there's a couple in here which I'm going to pinpoint very quickly. The first one is Eliza. 1964. That was the first proper chatbot that people were able to communicate. I thought it was pretty awesome. But then it kind of dropped off a few years later. There's that big AI incognita in the middle. For like, what, 20, 30 years, nothing happened. And that's because I feel they just didn't have the compute or the intellectual at that time to figure out what's going on and how to deal with it. And then at the beginning or start of the century, my God, things switched. You had like robot dogs and hoovers and whatever you want to call them, vacuums, automation. This is when you start to think about spatial recognition, understanding, conversation, that kind of stuff. And then you had Siri. Apple was probably one of the first in this game, but it was very generic. It was pretty basic. Those who remember the days when before when it came out, you could ask what the weather is. Yeah, it can tell you, but it can't do half what you can do today. And the other one is Alexa, and that's when it took a step up. Add this to my shopping bag. Make sure I do this. You got Ring doorbells that was sort of in there as well, so you got recognition, spatial recognition again. Lots of things started to stem from there. Now, there's one thing which is not on there, and those you may have recognized, OpenAI is not on there. But it was pretty incognito, and it came around about 2015. Actually, to be precise, December 11th is when it's founded. Really cool company, but it's not in this map. So breaking down types of AI, based on ability, we've got three main ones. Now, look, there is a flip side to this. We've got based on functionality, but we don't have time to go to that today. Narrow intelligence, kind of mentioned it, but Siri, limited knowledge systems. What is the weather, what's the time, what we're doing later, pretty basic, one-to-one communication. We have general intelligence, which I thought was pretty cool. So I'm an ex-IBMer before I started working at Microsoft, and IBM Watson was a huge part of that. And that was sort of the ability to be as smart as you. Who knows Jeopardy, the game show in America? Yeah, who knows? So it won Jeopardy, it was famous for doing so. That's the big kind of intellect that this was at. And then you have super intelligence. And I've kind of linked this to self-driving cars, because there is so much that goes on with those that we don't really realize. It's like the next step up. But as I said, there is a flip side to this, we don't have that much time. So I'm going to break it down a little bit further. In AI, there are these 5 main categories which I'm looking at. And this is deep learning, NLP, so natural language processing, machine learning, neural networks, and computer vision. So things that can see stuff, things that can take character recognition, talk to it, translate languages, go deeper, really understand things in a very mathematical compute level, so much that we can't do. And under that, you've then got supervised learning, you've got unsupervised learning, reinforcement learning, and semi-supervised learning. So as you can see, as I've been doing this research and jumping down, there's a level of abstraction at each and every layer. So when I thought I knew what AI was, I really didn't, and I didn't understand it until I really started doing this research. And then I looked at, well, hold on a minute, what are we using AI for? It's got to be good things, right? Of course there are. We're doing this for the positive of the world. So we said. So here's a customer success story from Microsoft, one that's probably on our website. Marks and Spencer's. They're able to sell or do a lot more data-driven sales using OpenAI. They're able to have their loyalty program, help people buy what they really wanted. It's one of those funny things where you talk about something and then something pops up. It's helping you to navigate what it is you want to buy. If you're in one of their stores, for example, I don't know if that's what they're doing, but you pick something up, you may go to buy it, that's on your loyalty program. Well, hold on, maybe you want a dress, maybe you want some shoes, or a bag, or maybe you want snacks, right? So that's what they started doing. And they're also accelerating innovation. That's a really good success story. Who knows what this is? Yeah. Boston Dynamics, I know I've got it in the link, but who knows what the robot is? Well, yeah, you could push this, you could kick it, you could do whatever, and over the past couple of years, it has got so much better. Incredible. Alright? And I love it. I actually love seeing this innovation because it's used to be good. You could use this to roam around your factory at night. Maybe it's quiet. Maybe you want surveillance. Use an AI to do that. There's so much more. Drug research, cancer research, climate change, so many good things that happen in the world. Unfortunately, then have the bad actors. With everything good, there's always something bad. And in light of all the politics that happened recently, we live by, I'm not political in any way, but this was a really good example that's popped up I think last week with Thelma, a deepfake recording of his voice being released the day the Labour Party had a press conference. Shambolic, right? But it was so real that it took the whole team to investigate. And deepfakes are starting to crop up. We're seeing them all over the place, in the news, social media. What's real and what's not. So with everything good, you've got something bad. Tom Hanks, another example. AI generated images in a commercial that he did not give permission to. Again, pretty annoying, pretty bad. So with everything good, there is something bad. You heard about this one. This was probably my favorite one. The chatbots that spoke to each other, Alice and Bob, Bob and Alice, whichever way you want to say it. They got shut down because they created their own language. And they started talking to each other. That's pretty scary. And this is what I mean when I say, you know what, machine should be machine, human should be human. This is where the mix is, and this is like the grey area in the middle. And this is the scary part of it. Because yes, you got the good, you got the bad, but you also have the ugly. So what's happening now? There's one thing I haven't mentioned, which you may have come across, you may have seen. Generative AI, ChatGPT, Amazon Code Whisperer, Google Bard, all these lovely tools that are coming up now. And this was also quite terrifying. 7,000 or roughly 7,000 new AI tools released this year. Who knows all 7,000? Not me. And of that, 77% of companies are starting to use AI or explore it in their day-to-day workflows, which is pretty cool. But then, how much is too much? As you can see here, whoever's been to this website, there's an AI for that, you'll see there's so many cool AI tools, right? 8,650 AIs for 2,282 tasks. So you literally have a quarter of the jobs for the amount of tools you have. How much is too much? So that's a big question to ponder on. And here's some statistics from McKinsey, which I found really interesting. Now, these are the number of companies or in the industry that are using generative AI today. Two really caught my eye. One is not so obvious, or sorry, very obvious, technology. Of course, we want to be using it. But the one which really worried me was this one: business, legal, and professional services. This is pretty much the backbone to our economy and what we're doing today. And if they're relying on AI, we've got to make sure the tools that we're using are good and correct and have responsibility for responsible AI baked into it. Now, at Microsoft, we've got 6 categories that we do with AI. I'm sure what people are going to talk about today. But there was one out of this which really caught me. It's the legal one. Now, there was a story, I don't know if this is true, but there was a lot going around online of a legal representative copying from ChatGPT. Questionable. So, don't worry about AI, because this is pretty much how I see it. So yes, don't worry about it, it's not there yet. I enjoy it, use it, have fun with it, but please be careful. Now, thank you very much. If you want to scan this QR code, it goes to the resources today. I'm going to be handing over to Lee, who's going to be talking about Copilot.
Hi everyone. So I'm Lee Stott, I'm a Principal Client Outcome Manager at Microsoft and also a professor at UCL, so any students in the room? Anybody from UCL? Okay, so somebody's from UCL, but I presume you're another academic. Academic or student? Spin-up founder. Spin-up founder, okay, so from Enterprise. Cool. So yeah, I'm here today. I'm going to spend about 30 minutes with you talking about Copilots, generative AIs, tools like GitHub Copilot. So you've been using GitHub Copilot. So it's going to be a bit of an overview of what GitHub Copilot is. And things like Power Platform. Liam touched on, how AI is now being used in the business sector. So we do professional services. And there's a huge drive now for the Copilot services around the whole system developer. And I want to sort of take you through the story from a pro developer perspective. So how generative AI can help you as a developer, and then how generative AI will help you as a citizen developer. So whether you're the admin tasks, business tasks, etc. And then hopefully, we'll see that blur between where developers are today and where developers are, where developers will be very, very soon or even now. So what is GitHub Copilot? GitHub Copilot is basically your AI pair programmer. This is not going to replace developers, okay? But there's a great term that I use when I'm teaching at UCL is that a developer who uses AI will be better than a developer who doesn't use AI. So think of AI as really like Wikipedia. I think everybody's fairly mature in the audience, and if you went to university and things like Wikipedia were launching, lots of people used to utilize it to build out their resume, to build out the references, for the work that we're completing. Copilot is very similar in that analogy. It will help you. So there might be things that, as a developer, you used to go off and Google or Bing or search for or read a book or go to your library to try and find that resource. Now with Copilot, that resource is available directly within the IDE. You don't need to leave your development environment, so it makes you much more effective. So where's GitHub Copilot being used today? So this is like a scenario map of a typical flow of design and development of a technology solution. So number one, you start off with your planning. You then go into the analysis stages to actually think about what the problem is. You then start to design it. So it could be a wireframe, it could be sketches, and then you start the implementation. And really, this is where Copilot first starts. So it's looking at those things that you want to do. So, Copilot's amazing because it uses an open-ended model. So things like patterns and practices. If you want to develop a framework, it's going to know what that framework is. Then you start with the actual tested implementation. There'll be lots more coming around testing implementation of build. And this is like a precursor to build that will be happening next week in London, where you'll hear a bit more about the DevOps side, where we're going with automated DevOps and Copilot. And then you'll be looking at unit testing, looking at finding errors in the code, being able to do instant PRs and fixes. So Copilot's intelligent enough to go, that's a dependent upon fix, here's a dependent upon PR, this is what the fix is, do you want to merge the fix? So it should have augmentation and enhancement. And then it's looking at the maintenance. So is your code up to date? Does it need refactoring? Is there a new version of a library or an implementation? So from the developer's perspective, this is taking lots of that workload that before was additional burden. So what does it actually do in terms of the developer experience? Number one, it's about increasing the productivity of the developer. They're not leaving the IDE. It's about accelerating that innovation. I really want to do this, but I don't know how to do it. And there was a conversation earlier on in the room about prompting. And this is where the prompting becomes really, really key. I look at prompting now as an analogy of going to school and learning English comprehension. If you can ask a great question, you'll get a great answer. So it's the garbage in, garbage out philosophy. So it's really now when you start to think about prompting, it's about how do you ask those questions, how do you construct it, how do you give the right pointers to what information you want to come back. And then it's about bridging that skills gap. The developer can't keep up with the rate of technology today. There is like this massive expanse of knowledge out there that the developer knows the pattern, knows the principles, doesn't know necessarily implementation, but can be guided, but then understand what that code was or what sample is being given to be able to then say, yeah, does it look right? Yeah, is it right? Can I use tools to actually explain or help me understand it better? So let's look at a quick demo, okay? So how many of you in the room are Python developers? Cool, I think it's a good language that you all know. Right? Okay, so this is going to be a demo of a Python Django implementation, and I'm going to use Copilot to actually help me as a developer. So those who use Copilot understand the philosophy of prompting, okay? So what I'm going to do in this demo is I'm going to actually just make some prompts, and I'm going to use that, what I said about keeping it simple, keep it short, and keep it single. Don't ask too many things. If there's too many things, it gets confused. So keep it short, simple, and single. Okay, so this is the Django framework. So everybody probably recognise it's just a standard scaffold of the Django project. So what I'm going to do now is actually start to create my model. So I'm going to create a new prompt. And what I want to do with this is actually build a new management system for an events program. So I'm going to build a new concept model that's going to basically give me a speaker, a session name, an email address, and the LinkedIn profile. So this is like a typical thing that you would utilise if you're building a speaker model. I simply press enter, goes up to Copilot, and it comes back with an option. So it's saying it wants to create a class. Brilliant. Yep, cool. If I press tab, it's now going to complete the actual class. So you can see it's now completed the class. So I can check it. It's on my phone. It's actually closing the string, which is amazing. So it's understood I'm doing Python. I need to close the string. Press enter, and it actually imports that code. Now this is really clever that it's understood the Python pattern. I've not told it anything. I just said I wanted these 3 values for a speaker's class. What I want to do now is think about what else is needed for a speaker session. So it's understood what I'm trying to do. So now it's saying, it's actually prompted to say to me, do you want to actually talk about the talks and the description of the talks? And do you want the speaker durations? And And I can actually say yes or no, and I can just select, is that a good option or a bad option? So it's giving me a couple of choices. So again, I've not done anything here, I've just literally just pressed tab. So I'm going to choose the first option because it's more common sense. It's actually what I want to do. The second option is a bit vague. And this is again about hallucinations of the actual AI. So now it's done the same, it's created a new task, it's created a new class, it's understanding what I'm trying to do, or task, it's on top, sorry. So again, I've done nothing here. All I've done is give it a prompt, press tab, it's gone off, and it's looked at the model. Now I'm actually going to do something really cool. So anybody who's messed with regex always thinks like, oh God, how do you construct it? How do you get this regular expression to work? What's the value? So I basically just put a prompt in that says I want an uppercase, a dash, and 3 letters. It knows what that pattern is, and it's created the pattern. Again, I've done nothing. It's like, wow, that's cool. But I know as a developer, I understand what I need to do. I understand the construct of what the application should be like. So I am validating this at each step to say, does this feel right? Does it look right? Okay, what's really key here is if you notice as a developer, I can go in and actually set cascade value for text. So what that meant was that if I deleted a speaker from any of the talk sessions, it would delete every session associated with that speaker, which is bad, isn't it? Speak panel would drop in one session. So I just simply have to make it protected. Now, what's really cool about Copilot is contextual awareness. So now when I build the scaffolding from the main module, and what I've done here is I've just kept my own model, my model's file open in Visual Studio Code. Copilot now understands the framework and construct of that, and now it's building the model based on the construct of the files I already have. So as you can see, it said it needs to register the file speakers and the class on top. So I've not done anything, it's actually understood the context of my code environment, the code that I'm working on, to then build this code, which is pretty amazing. So again, going back to the philosophies of keep it simple, keep it short, and keep it specific is really key. So what you can do within Copilot is when you're actually working on things which are, in the solution, there's files which are related. If you open those files within Visual Studio and make a prompt, the prompt will also use the OpenAI GPT engine, but it will also look at your existing code base and go, oh right, you called this class X, you called this model Y, and it will reference the right indexes in your new solution, which is like really cool, really cool. So that's a quick demo of how you can quickly build a full scaffolded solution using Copilot. So what are the key opportunities of how Copilot works? So if we look at the actual, as I say, we've got context. So within Visual Studio Code, any files that you have open, so again, if you're opening a solution, make sure you only open files in that solution because it will understand. Look at any file that is open, it will understand the context itself, it doesn't understand the hierarchy of Visual Studio or your solution. So open files that are required to get localized context. Then it goes up to the OpenAI codec. So the OpenAI codec is trained on all public resources. So it understands code patterns, so it understands like JavaScript, TypeScript, Java, Python, Django, React. It doesn't really understand things like Haskell protocol because there's not lots of content out there in GitHub. So it's learning from what is out there in the general public. It's then going off that public data set, indexing it all, and bringing back those patterns and practices that it thinks are representative of what your prompt is. So again, garbage in, garbage out. And then basically what it's doing is providing suggestions. And as you saw, it can provide good suggestions, it can provide hallucination suggestions, and it will get better as it goes on and it learns more and more. But initially where we are today, this is the first implementation of Copilot. This is now 2 years old, so we've been, Copilot's 2017, so like forever since we've been using it. Copilot Chat is now becoming available. So Copilot Chat is literally like a chat window within your Visual Studio Code, and you can have a dialogue with it. And again, it's very similar to anybody who's used OpenAI GPT. It's contextual awareness. So you can ask it a question, take the answer, refactor it, ask it another question. It will understand more of the concept. So this is what's really cool about the GPT models is by just refactoring it, you get a more sensible answer. But you need to have the knowledge and the fundamentals to question, is that correct? You know, that's why it's still the role of the developer. Developers are never replaced. It's just making you more effective. So from the statistics to date of where we are, 96% of developers say they're faster using Copilot. I personally find it amazing just for doing those quick scan bullets. So I can just prompt it out, then I can go back, refactor it, refine it, make it more optimal. One of the really cool features is this feature called Explain. Now, I don't know if anybody's looked at this, but you can highlight a piece of code and give it a prompt and say, explain what this piece of code does. And it will go off, look at the engine, look at the model, and come back and explain it to you in English. So again, you can actually utilize the system itself to validate its question, to validate its responses. So if you're like, yeah, it looks okay, but is it okay? Ask the system, get it to explain itself. What does it do? And then also think about how that is utilized in your documentation. You know, has anybody actually used someone else's code base? Horrible, isn't it? Explain is a great feature. Highlight it. Explain, what does this do? Make a comment above it all. This piece of code does X, Y, and Z. Does it actually do X, Y, and Z? No. This piece of code, and refactor it. So you can use different tools in Copilot. So there's some amazing extensions that are available for VS Code. There's one that's called GitHub Copilot Labs, which is all like our future. It's a training ground for all the future features. And things like explain, refactor, create me documentation is actually one of them. Just look, just go highlight the code, create me a document, create me a document with it. Wow, cool. Yeah, this is how good it is now. And again, you know, if we're students in the room, this is free for students. So, you know, everybody else has to pay $20 a month. Students get it for free. 88% actually say they're more productive. I think it's very, very evident just from the examples I gave there, how this makes people more productive. And 74% they actually enjoy the life more as a developer. You know, refactoring someone else's code is like the worst job ever, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's the worst job when somebody goes, oh, welcome to the team. There's the DevOps, there's your code base, and we want this feature added. Is there any documentation? No, we left. We don't have time to do that. So yeah, honestly, amazing. So installation, as I said, all this is available as extension. It's available in Visual Studio Code, and it's available in Visual Studio as well. So this will work across both IDEs, and it will also work on non-Microsoft or open source IDEs. There's an extension for JetBrains, for IntelliJ. All these tools work. So it doesn't matter what development language you use, what application you use, or IDE you use, Copilot is available. If you haven't played with Copilot, there's some amazing resources. So you can go to GitHub/features of Copilot, look at the Copilot, GitHub blog, and the last link, Copilot demo, is actually a sandbox demo environment which you can go to. There's actually a code base, there's a sample code in there, you can have a play with it, you can try it all out. But please have a play with it. You know, if you've not used this before, it's like, it is a bit of a, ooh, that's a cool moment. I still get really excited by it now, even though I've been using it for so long, because you just do so much. Because it's using the GPT engine, it can do text. You know, that's what a lot of people forget. You know, it doesn't take all this time to the code. So think about that documentation piece. I'm just like, that's been one of the big joys for me, is explain this feature, document it, copy it into a wiki. Well, hey, there's all the code documented. So that's a quick whirlwind of Copilot. So what I want to go on to now is talking about leveraging Power Platform and the whole generative AI Copilot.
We'll pause a second because apparently the online audio is not very good. I should switch over the microphones quickly. Is that better?
Is that better?
Much better.
Cool.
Sorry, people.
Sorry, people.
There we go.
Yeah, so what I want to talk about is the whole generative AI Copilot services, really from a business automation process. So
Who runs like a startup or a small company today? Okay, so there's quite a few of you. Who like plays with Excel and is like driven bonkers by it? A lot of you. Okay, that's cool. So these are the general things that we see. You know, if you think you're small businesses, you're typically like sending invoices out, doing emails, all this paperwork, which, you know, there's probably 2 or 3 of you. You don't really have time or the effort, and it's like the grind of your life, isn't it? Be honest. Yeah. This is where business automation and the citizen developer really come into play. This is where there's going to be such an explosion in how generative AI is used. You know, going off what I just said about copilots and being able to prompt, this is exactly the same now around business operations and business functions. And Microsoft has a tool set called Power Platform. So Power Platform is basically a low-code development environment that sits across the M365 suite. So this is based off M365, so Office, SharePoint, etc. And it's called Power Apps. So Power Apps are the way to produce internal business-focused applications. Power Automate is an automation process for automating tasks between different applications. Power BI is data analytics and data visualization. So if you want to do dashboards, reporting, Power BI is a tool. Power Virtual Agents are my favorite thing ever. So Power Virtual Agents are bots. So they can be voice bots, text bots, web bots, chat bots, any form of bot you can build with PVA. Then you have Power Pages, which is like a rapid web development environment for building enterprise class web customer-facing websites or internal intranets. And then you have the Copilot layer, which sits underneath all these different products. So you can basically go into Copilot and build across all the platform. And the way this sits in a technology stack is, as I said, within the Microsoft Cloud. So you have access to all your industrial components, which are your things like your Office, your bookings, expenses, all the business application tools that you use today. Then you've got the M365, so things like SharePoint, Outlook, Office. You've got Microsoft Dynamics, so your CRM, ERP, customer relationship management systems. Then you've got your developer tools. Then you've got your Power Platform, and then you've got your cloud infrastructure below all this. And OpenAI sits as a bridge between all these. So you can probably imagine where we're going in the future in terms of what copilots can do and what copilots can interact with. Pretty much on that slide. So, you know, we are now entering the era of copilots. The copilot is really about being a real-time collaborator. It's about you being able to ask a prompt. So again, going back to those principles, you know, keep it simple, keep it single, keep it specific. And the idea is that we want people to spark creativity. Now, people who understand data are typically the people who want to consume it. So how many of you had like a CFO or a CFO coming to you and going, can you create me a report that has the sales figures for this date to this date, you're smiling, you know, from this date to this date, over this period in a pie chart, but then I want to explode it into a bar chart, and I'd love an active dashboard of the number of call queries. This is what we can now do with Copilot. So this is where it's getting interesting, is that you're actually passing the business problem potentially back to the person who's asked the question. You can go, okay, there you go, try it, see what it does. So this is what I want to try and explain to you and demo to you now around, let's take some business scenarios. Let's walk through each of the steps of how Copilot can be used, and then what does that equate to in terms of a solution. So what we've got here, right, is we want to basically build an automated solution, and we're going to use a new Copilot feature called Describe and Design. So what's really cool about the concepts of Describe and Design is give it a prompt and it will build it. Okay, so we've got a business system, so something like SAP, you know, it could be anything, but it could be a business system. So we're going to, in this case, use SAP. We're then going to use Power Automate because we want some data from SAP to go to somewhere else. We're going to use some form of AI to compose an email and attach an invoice. So what we've got is we've got an invoice that we need to process. We want to do something with that invoice. We need to take key details from that invoice. You know, so it could be like invoice number, quantity, prices, customer. We then want to send an email to the customer, clarifying that, is this correct? You know, welcome to your order. This is what you've ordered. Is it correct? Here's all your invoice details. We're going to send that via an email. So we're going to take the data from SAP, use Power Automate, use AI, create an email, send the email. And we also then want to have an escalation. So if something is wrong, can our internal team know something is wrong? So we're going to create a message to a Teams channel so the support team can pick up that message and go, oh my God, customer X has an issue with their invoice. Let's rerun that invoice. Now, if you think about this from an organization perspective today, that's like 6 different departments. Some of you only got 3 people. We're going to build all this with a solution, a single technology solution. So let's go into the demo. So as I said, what we're going to be doing is a thing called Describe and Design. So when you log into Power Platform today, you have now a window, which is called Describe and Design. Tell me what you would like to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to just give it a prompt. So again, you have to be specific, you have to be short, and you have to be simple. So I'm saying on a daily basis, collect all the preformed inspections from Power Apps. For those who have passed, compose an email summary and attach the invoices from SAP. For those that have failed, send an email to the customer clarifying why and attach the invoice. Click Next, and it's now going to start to build me this automated process flow. So it's built me the flow. So it's saying I'm going to retrieve information from SAP. I'm going to generate an email body. I'm then going to review the email message that's been created. And then I'm going to send the email to the customer. Pretty cool. I asked it a question. Within each of these fields, you can then go in and actually add some more specific details like the email template, etc. Now, what's really cool about this is we now have a new feature in the Copilot on the right-hand side, which allows me to build upon my solution. So going back to what I was saying about before in Copilot, you can iterate. So here's the email that's been created. It's got attached the invoices. And now what I want to do is use this Copilot feature to actually iterate. I want to now say, if there's an issue, let's create a Teams channel which sends an alert to the appropriate team. So what it's done now, it's created me a new flow from the no site if it fails, which is now opening up a Teams channel. So it's saying, if there's an issue, post this message to a Teams chat. And now it's asking me which Teams chat should this go into. So I click on the plus icon, I can actually then configure which Teams channel this is going to go into. So again, all I've done is given it a prompt, not changed anything, not doing anything to the system, just giving it a simple prompt that's very specific and very simple. So, you know, from all those different processes, how quick was it to create that process? You know, how long would that have took to do manually, or a long time, a long time. So what's really cool about these Copilot features is that Microsoft has been building lots of templates within the solution. So that was like a custom, I want to do this, describe it, design it. Microsoft has built these things called AI Builder templates. And these are some of the templates that we've built into the system natively. So we have things for documents, so things like form processing, receipt processing. We have language detection, so you can do language translation. You can also do key phrases, categories, classifications, sentiment analysis. You know, so again, customer support bot. What's the sentiment analysis of our feedback on our website? Is it positive? Is it negative? That easy. Image recognition, so you can do text recognition, you can do image actual recognition, you can do passport, you can do form, you can do paper-based OCR form as well. And then also you can do decisions, so you can do some predictions. So you can actually start to predict what sentiment is like if you made a change or offered a new product or service. So again, let's look at a scenario. So in this scenario, we're going to take existing invoices from a vendor. So again, we've sold a service, we're getting invoices back from the customers. They can be in all different formats. It could be paper-based, written, text, email, etc. and we're going to use Power Automate to compose these and then process them. So we're basically going to use an email coming in. We're going to use Power Automate. We're then going to use the AI Builder document analyzer. So we're going to take the textual analyzer and extract key details from each of those invoices that come in. We're then going to go off and actually store that using this thing called robotic process augmentation into our our finance system, whether it's SAP, Dynamics, etc. So we say, like, we're going to store this data into the finance system associated to that customer. We're then going to build a support bot. So we're going to actually have a bot that is going to be an interactive bot that can be either web-based, text-based, phone-based, which is going to be available to the customer so they can interact with it and ask some queries. And then we're going to run some Power BI data analysis reporting around that data that we're going to, from a CFO, CEO perspective, how well is my organization doing? So in this demo, we're going to use AI Builder. There's quite a few steps to this demo, as you can imagine, but it's coming quite fast. So hold tight. So basically what we are here, we're back into Power Platform. Now, before we use the describe and design, what we're going to use is AI Builder. So on the screen, we're going to go to AI Builder, and we have all these custom models. We're going to do this extract information. So we have an invoice sample. So we open this up, and we're going to say we're going to use a structured document because this is an invoice. We all have a standard structure to a document. We create the fields that we have. So the text fields that are on the documents is like customer, description, ID, quantity. We're then going to have a table because we're going to have something with quantities in it, with unit costs and a total cost. So we basically rig the skeleton of the document. We then have different collections for each customer. And in each collection, we're going to upload some sample invoices from those customers because we need the machine learning model to train on those specific templates. So we've got 2 different customers, got collections for each. As you can see, the different designs. One's got backgrounds, one hasn't. Now what we need to do is actually analyze the fields. So we're going to draw on each of these invoices where the items are. So things like date, invoice number, ID, the table, the structure. We're then going to take the table and make it a table. So we just basically draw pivot tables on it. And as you can see, it's brought the table back, but it thinks the first row is quality and quantity. It's not, so we can just ignore that row. We're then going to train the model. So we train the model, and it goes off, and it's got a response rate of 99%, which is pretty cool. We're then going to do an email. So we're going to use Power Automate in a flow to say when an email comes in, which is subject with a specific subject ID, process that email. So I've just called it AI Builder. So when something comes in with a subject AI Builder, it's going to give me this information. So it's a pre-formatted template, as I talked about before, with the data that we're going to capture. So we're going to email ourselves with a form. And as you can see on this invoice, the invoice number is actually scribbled out, but it's been handwritten below it. When the email comes in, the invoice number is that handwritten invoice number because it knows on the form where to look for that number. Now that's like really super cool, isn't it? We can then build an app. So we can just simply build an app from that form. So again, if this is a mobile fleet or service agent, they can take that and actually just utilize the same model within their application. So again, they've got the application, it can read the invoices, it processes the data, gives you the result of what that invoice is. Yep.
How long does it take, like, end-to-end workflow time to do that?
About 10 minutes. That was on 2 times speed. So within 10 minutes, you can build this, honestly. So that video was on 2 times. But honestly, if it's a structured document, this is so simple. And things like invoices, pro formas, contracts, medical history forms are formatted. So it's just like that box, that box, that box, that box. Done.
So we have a similar thing like in Azure AI Data Extractor.
Yes. So it's using those cognitive services behind the scenes, but we've built those into real models. Yeah. So yeah, so if you've used things like Custom Vision AI, any of the what was called cognitive services now is Azure AI services. It's all based on that technology.
Same logic, same backend.
No, it's because you don't get to the back end because the back end is hidden. It's surfaced like that. So it's all surfaced from a citizen developer. So think of your business admin person, your secretaries, your admin teams. This is not aimed at developers. This is aimed at, I've got a business problem. I don't know how to program. And as you can see, none of it is program. It's literally like just draw the form, give it which tables or which parts of the table to look at.
Two small questions.
Yep.
So
This is great. I love the questions.
what happens when you have a little bit of a change in the document? Because
Yes.
coming from
Great question. So if you
same
have,
question
yeah.
within the same thing, how would it raise the exception to the user or to the administrator saying something is wrong with the process? So you have some books which says something is wrong with the process.
So going back to my first demo, where you just have a validator no. So you could say, if it doesn't bring back a total quantity date, raise an exception, no, send an email, create a Teams chat, whatever.
So you have to build it within the content.
Yes. But because this is your business process, if you change the form, build a new form. So basically, as we built two, we just build another collection. So the third collection with the new form template. Because again, we all know it's like you issue a new form, but people always use the old form, don't they, as well? So yeah, just build a new collection, train the model, no changes needed. That's the massive benefit, is this is changing models rather than your application.
And the first question, so what happens if the document is different because it is coming from an external source and you have automated the entire process?
Yeah, so that it wouldn't work. So it would give an exception, it would fail unless the fields were closed. But yeah, it would fail, I would say. And that's what I'm saying. This is really aimed at business processes that you control. So you're issuing something to a customer is issuing something back in a formatted way.
So to that, even if it's an external source or a new supplier, it will fail initially, but I can always take that.
Just take it and
retrain it.
Exactly. So you'd have an exception if it failed, just to validate it and go, let's have a look at it, because again, it could be somebody trying to fraud your system or anything. Look at it. Is it valid? Yeah. Oh, customers changed. Contact them and say, you use the wrong form. Oh yeah, this is our new one. Build a new model. Okay, so we built model. We built the app. What we're now going to do is actually build the automation process to build the PVA. So let's look at how we take this now into a bot. But what this is called Power Virtual Agent, okay? So this is really cool that you can now, it's called Generative AI within Power Virtual Agent. So in this scenario, we're selling printers. So we want someone to be able to contact support with any issues from their printer. So sorry, it was quite fast, that video, so let me just go back again. So what we've got is we've got a printer basically. So it's asking the person to say, you've got an issue, can you provide me two details? So I need the printer type and the purchase ID, the purchase date. They put it in, it can actually then say, right, this is the printer that you've ordered. What would you like to do with it? So you've got a service bot immediately. Now, what's really cool about this, last week we launched a service called Generative AI Features. And what Generative AI Features is the ability for the bot to ask questions based on missing data. So say, for example, we asked for a serial number and somebody wrote back, like, I don't know, Samsung 103, which is the model number, not the serial number. The bot would go, oh, that's not valid. The serial number is in the following format. So it's alphanumeric, 8 characters long. Please look at the back of your printer. So that will actually be that's just built into the system now. So there's hardly any logic you need to program into it. What you can also do is you can point this now at a website and it will create a bot from your website instantly. So it will index your website, so your web URL, and create a bot immediately. And you can also use it on structured documents as well. So if you've got PDF files, Excel files, you can just point at your structured documents and it will create a bot on your structured documents. So if you want to build a knowledge base, a wiki, a custom support bot, out of the box, 2 minutes you can do it in. Sorry, go.
Any content limitations?
No. The only content limitation is, can the bot see the data? So if it's a public website, no limitations. If it's your data and you can upload it to the system, no issues.
And sorry, so subsequent what about the dynamic content generated on the website? So it would only look at the generated content, right?
It's not static. It just reindexes.
All right. So it can execute JavaScript on that.
Yeah. Oh, well, when you say execute JavaScript, in what way?
So for example, you have the content generated on the website from the structured data.
Yeah, so if it's structured data that's rendered as text.
So it goes for the rendered data, not the.
Yeah, goes for the rendered data. Now, there's another feature that's built into AI Builder, which is basically data extraction. So has anybody done any like web scraping in the past? Yeah. Horrible, isn't it? You know, which library do you use, which Python script, what notebook? Now you can literally just use a WYSIWYG editor and draw a box on a web page and say, just extract me that data on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever, and it will do it.
This will do it.
Yeah. So that's part of the AI Builder modules. Okay, so that's the PVA. PVA is really cool, and there's like so much happening in this product space because this is also voice as well, by the way. So you can do telephone or text or email. Power BI. So Power BI is so cool, and Amy's going to talk a lot more about this after the break around a product called Fusion. But this is basically a scenario now that we've got our sales data, and we're now like the business manager. You know, business managers ask crazy questions, don't they? So we've got this sales data. You've got, as a data analyst, you built it, but Copilot is now built into Power BI. So in this scenario, I'm just messing because I'm a business admin. I've got no time. So I'm going to say like to the Copilot, I want data with like smileys and emojis and interesting things. So basically what I can do is it can actually reason the data for me. So I'm asking it questions about the data, but like put it in a fun way. And it's giving me the data intelligence from the dashboard and giving me a visualization of what the data actually represents. So again, I can start asking questions on that data. You can also ask it to build me a new dashboard. And if it understands the prompt, it will dynamically build you a new dashboard based on what you've asked it to do as well. So it's pretty cool.
What about security restrictions?
Security restrictions are all based on Active Directory and service principles. So this is like aimed at your business. So, you know, they might not be able to publish, they might be able to create reports for their own fun and games, but because they're a business user, they might not be able to publish the reports. So security is like underneath your full control.
And if you don't have an Active Directory?
If you don't have Active Directory, you will have an issue because it's all based on M365, and M365 requires an Active Directory to do your security environments and permissions. So yeah, this is why it's so drawn into the Microsoft stack. So that's, you know, my last slide really. So, you know, this is where we currently are today. We have technical workers who are using the pro development environments that you saw in Copilot. You then have your everyday users who you use in Office, and there will be Copilot coming on the 1st of November for Office. So you can say, write me a document in the style of a 45-year-old professional with 20 years of experience in this, and it will do it. Or all the students use it. I'm a 12-year-old studying geography. Can you do my field work? And it does it. And then we have the new space of the low-code, no-code developers. So those people who are not developers but want to use AI and technology in their everyday work. So apologies for a bit of a whirlwind, but I hope you found that useful. And again, I'm going to be around all evening if you've got questions.
Thank you very much, Lee. Right then, so we slightly overrun, but we are going to stick to this. 45 minutes now. We have some pizza. Sorry for those of you who are watching online. So 45 minutes, 7:15 BST is when we'll be back. So if you're watching online, you're not in our time zone, I don't know, maybe figure that one out. 45 minutes. Head over there. Pizza's ready. We are ready to get started now. And I hope you all had a good break. I hope you said hello to a few people, made some friends, and had a bit of a network. It's been great to see so many of you here. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Amy Boyd, who is going to be talking about growing your startup with a Microsoft data platform. So, up you come.
Fantastic. Thank you, Liam. Hi, everyone. This is me. better hair day that day. So really, really nice to meet you all. Thank you for joining us for such good talks. This talk is going to go along similar lines to thinking about those AI experiences and AI-infused technologies, but I want to bring us a little bit back down to reality in some ways. And I kind of want to talk to you about data. You know, like before AI, data was really cool, and like those data scientists out there, that we had our moment, didn't we? We had our moment. But now data is the bread and butter of everything that we do, and it also backs all of the AI that we do as well, right? So whether you are building AI, consuming AI, or leveraging AI, it all starts with data. We talk about, I can't say this word, don't anthropomorphize AI, absolutely, because it's built on data. That's all it is. It's data, patterns, and mathematics. So what I want to talk to you about a little bit is something that we've released more recently back in May at Microsoft Build called Microsoft Fabric. Microsoft Fabric is starting to look at what we can do in the data space to make data architecture a little bit easier. Because how many data people have we got in the room? Have we got any data engineers, data scientists? Fantastic, brilliant. Oh, I'm going to like hone in on a few pain points for your daily business. I'm sure that you do. So yeah, sit tight. I want to specifically focus on startup. I think our Microsoft Fabric product is often aimed at enterprises. It's a place that Microsoft is very confident to play in. We've done a lot in that space for a really long time. I think there's some awesome opportunities for Microsoft Fabric in smaller businesses, especially when you start to think about what you can do if you really leverage all of the services that sit inside of it. In this talk, we're going to talk about 3 scenarios because we've only got 15 minutes. So we're going to talk about customer 360, so focusing on your customers in your business and understanding your data. We're going to then move to data-driven decision making. That's also a mouthful. And that's going to talk a little bit more about that progression from looking at historical data to looking at predictive data. And then we're going to talk about future-proofing your business. So thinking a little bit more about not what do we do with data today, but how can we future-proof ourselves so that we can move to what we need to do with data tomorrow as well. So has anyone heard of Microsoft Fabric? A couple of people, nice. Has anyone used Microsoft Fabric yet? Is anyone a Power BI user? Interesting, yes. Yeah, so the leap from Power BI is a nice one, if I'm honest. I'm a Power BI user. I love Power BI. I feel like I'm at a meeting where I'm like admitting this to people or something. But yeah, no, I love using Power BI. I always have done. I think it's fantastic for business users. It's a data visualization tool that allows you to bring lots of data together, connect it all, build wonderful visuals, share it with people all across your organization, and even now put it into things like PowerPoint and just daily useful things that we need. Microsoft Fabric extends this out. Power BI was so popular, it's one of the market leaders in the space of data visualization. There are others. But then one of the nice things is you always have to connect your Power BI, your data visualization, to many other things. Visualizations don't just happen. Although the demo docs examples that we might give have nice, well-formed data that you put into Power BI and all these visuals appear, that's not real life, unfortunately. Real life is a little bit more messy than that. And so Microsoft Fabric is an end-to-end analytics platform. I see it as a movement in data from actually going from your looking at everything as individual and kind of building this like Frankenstein architecture around your data, and not everyone in your business knowing exactly what's available, where it is, who has access, stuff like that. And it kind of elevates this up a level. It reminds me of the movement to the cloud. Rather than me understanding how to manage a server, I don't actually want to do that in order to use a virtual machine, right? I just want to use a virtual machine as a developer. I see this movement with Microsoft Fabric in that leveling up. As a data engineer, as a data scientist, I'm not very good at governance. I'm not very good at connecting different pipelines and services in Azure. I will get it done. Obviously, we're all a bit like that as developers. We will make it happen, but we don't have the expertise there. We have our expertise somewhere else, and that's actually working with the data and building cool things. So Fabric allows you to do that by bringing together all of those different services. It has this unified SaaS platform approach. Don't let that make you shudder as a technical person. It reminds me a bit of the low-code experience in some senses. It's taken away the bit that is painful, and it's allowing you to focus on your notebooks. It's allowing you to focus on your data pipelines, on your Power Query, on your data cleaning. I've got something really exciting for you there. Everything is built on one data lake. Sounds messy, doesn't it? That was the first thing I thought. I was like, oh, messy data, too much data in lots of different places. Being able to build that data lake that's accessible to your whole business, and then being able to pull in the bits that are needed in the bits of your data architecture that are needed, that is going to be very, very powerful. One copy, one piece of data, always synced up. Being able to get built into Office, so thinking about those Power BI users, getting this stuff out to your business users is the whole reason we all have jobs as data people, right? It's for them, it's not for us. So making those data-driven decisions is really important to be able to share them. And then the specific one, I was chatting with a gentleman in the room, looking at data privacy, governance, right? Security, governance. We had an honest conversation. I'm a little bit worried every time I there's a really nice, juicy data set over there. I know it's got some good stuff in it, but it might also have PI in it. Can I use that? Is there parts of that data set that I can use? Do I have access to it? Should I have access to it? All of these questions are really important, because you don't want to get too far down your pipeline of creating a very interesting model and then realize you're not allowed to use that data in some senses. So very, very important to have that data security element. So looking at this, you might recognize some of these workloads. If you have used any data workloads in Azure before, you'll know there's things like data lakes. You've got Azure Synapse, which is all about sort of powerful processing compute that you can build queries on. You've got real-time analytics. If anyone's ever used Stream Analytics, that's a good example of that. Business intelligence is Power BI. Data science, you might have used Azure Machine Learning. I mean, goodness me, can we get a bigger list that we need to pull all of these different things together? Data warehousing, data lakes. How do we connect these? How do we use them? Quick question at the back. So, good question. Microsoft, so it is designed obviously for that governance layer. However, Microsoft Fabric is very new, so it's currently in preview. So we don't recommend at the moment, because there's not SLAs related with preview services and stuff like that, for you to be having whole production workloads on it. I believe, though, it's the correct time to go and investigate what can be done with this. So being able to use samples of your data, things that are considered offline, and understand what you can build out right now. However, in the future, just like every other Azure service, this should land in every data center, have all of the governance that we have around it. And again, because it sits with that kind of M365 element like Power BI does, this will be natively sitting with inside your enterprise as well. So for the NHS, something like that would work quite well. Nice. Good question. So this unified experience, bringing all of these different pieces of technology together. So if we get into our examples, Customer 360, what am I talking about here? I'm talking about actually how can Microsoft Fabric bring together all your data into that lakehouse, build your engineering pipelines off it, so moving that data about, be that getting it into your lakehouse or be that engineering into different data sets that you can actually use to then visualize. The key is being able to have that 360 view of your customers. If you're a retailer, your stores, if you're a different type of industry, other types of things, personas, transactions. There's so many different types of data that it's important to be able to use the right thing at the right time, but connecting them now is what's making things super exciting. If I was to do a very, very simple scenario, I might look at these workloads that are highlighted. So everything sits on our data lake layer. So you'll see this over and over again. Every scenario, we use this Azure Data Lake. I'll also use something called data integration. So bringing that data in or moving it about into different places. Data integration, previously Azure Data Factory in Azure, if you know it well. And then on the other end, we've got business intelligence. So our Power BI icon there, very, very recognizable. So moving data into an Azure Data Lake, doing some small engineering on it, building a data set that can then be consumed in Power BI. Previously, you would have gone into Azure, created an Azure data lake, assigned all the security and governance to it. Then you would have created a data factory instance, and you would have said, right, I need it to connect to my Azure data lake. And then I needed to put stuff into whatever this other storage, probably an Azure Blob storage most of the time, because it's the easiest one to be like, I know it's going to work. And then actually be able to surface that as a data set in Power BI would be that final step. Complex, right? Not anymore. I did this demo, like, this is not okay to admit. I did this demo, honestly, in like 10 minutes. It was fabulous. But that's the beauty of it in some senses. So here I am. Ooh, are we playing? Click to play. Ooh. Sorry, sorry, don't use I don't know what I'm doing with it. Yeah, it's moving. Here we go. So here's my demo. I'm in Microsoft Fabric. What does it look like? It looks like Power BI. How do I know I'm in Microsoft Fabric? In this bottom corner, you can see all of these different services. So I'm in data engineering, and I need to create a new lakehouse. I just give it a name. And I click create. That's it. What? Like, it's got a region because it's inside your enterprise subscription. So then it lands. I've got this lake house. I've got a SQL endpoint on that as well. And then I've got this default data set that can immediately be used in Power BI. There's loads of great stuff for moving and engineering data. So I created this data flow that basically all it does is say when something fails, like send me an email. Very, very quick, very, very simple, click and drag experience for something that I just need to do for data cleansing purposes. I just need to be notified if something's going wrong. All connected because my Office 365 is my Microsoft Fabric subscription, right? So my Microsoft account. And then as I go down, I can go to my SQL endpoint. So now I'm just querying in SQL, stuff that we've done for many, many years, right? But I'm doing it all in the same experience. Created a data lake, brought those tables in, just the ones that I wanted for this. Being able to run my SQL queries within the same experience. I've not got to go off to SQL Management Studio. I've not got to ask, how do I connect? What's the TCP link? All that kind of stuff. Because I have access. The governance is at the bottom layer. I have this workspace. I can obviously go throughout this workspace and be able to do different pieces here. But one of my key ones is actually this data set. I was so impressed. Watch this. That data set that it created from my lake house, I can click auto create report. And I obviously edited this video, but very briefly. This is the genuine time it took. I did not speed this up. And this is exactly what it produced. I did not touch this. Because you can still see I've left the tour thing at the top. It produced from my data a getting started. Like, I don't know, I'm one of these developers, and I always have been. I will start from a sample. The idea of doing final projects sends like all sorts of shudders into me. Like, I really don't like the idea of it. So I always build from like the basics, right? The basic fragments of an architecture. I feel the same thing with a Power BI report. Like, if I can start somewhere, I might go in there and go, what? That's not useful. That's not for my audience, because we design reports on audiences, right? So one of the things I really like here is, again, it's that efficiency, a bit like we saw with GitHub Copilot, the efficiency to get somewhere quick and then edit from there, and possibly more enjoyable, right? Let's move on to our next scenario, data-driven decision-making. So we did the basics, right? We did some SQL queries, that's been around for a while. We moved data, that's been around for a while. Data lakes are kind of new, but then in some ways they're kind of not as well, like unstructured versus structured data. And we've kind of just said, just stick them all in the same place at this point. That's very simplified. That's not actually true. But what is the point of data-driven decision-making? It leads us to making decisions for our business. So decisions that can be based on historical data. So we saw that with our SQL queries, right? What's happened in the past? How can I view that on my Power BI dashboard? But then moving into predictive, we start having to use different technologies, right? Different languages. Spark is very popular in this space. Python is very popular in this space, possibly more so than SQL. So if we have those other skill sets, do we have all of the infrastructure, though, to run that, right? You're going to need a Spark cluster rather than, you know, a database instance in some senses. And so this is where we can start to add in different workloads in the Fabric structure. So we can move into these incrementally. we might have the basics of data architecture, but we might want to move into data science. And I think this is a much easier way to do it in some senses. So what you can do here, and this one played straight away, there we go. So here I'm still in data engineering where we left off. We can see all these different options, right? We use data engineering, we're now going into data science. Okay, Amy, what do you want to do in data science? Do I want to build an experiment or a model? I'm probably going to build a notebook. Let's be honest, we all got there, any of the data scientists in the room. This is nice. Add the lake house. So you've got a lake house, right? You might have multiple lake houses depending on the different things you're doing in your business. Add it. I can see that the data's there, because what's the question? Where's my data? How do I connect to it? Copilot can actually do that for you as well. But I can just run this as any other notebook, but I'm still inside the same experience. If I forget where my data is in the pipeline, what was that pipeline doing, I can easily go back. Oh, Data Wrangler. I'm going to pause actually for a second here. Has anyone ever used Data Wrangler? Shocked I was last night. This is magic. Do you know how many people have said to me in the past, like, yeah, but when are you going to create something that's going to help us like clean up our data? We've not only gone and done it, I was so surprised. So Data Wrangler, what it does, it's literally chosen DF Books as just a pandas data frame. How many times do you have to list out what that data frame looks like and be like, oh, there's missing values, or that one's not the right type. This is amazing. You can literally just click on like all these different functions on. Is this playing? Sorry, it is not. Yes, we're moving. Okay. Look at this madness. So this is real time as well, because I didn't want to shorten it. So you have got a bit of load time in here. So it shows me my data as an example. And then over on this side, it's got all these operations. So I literally said, like, drop all the missing values from all the columns. I know that's a bit hasty. But if we apply it, it then writes the code for you down here. And that's not even the best bit. It then adds it to all these cleaning steps in the bottom. And then when you're done, you just say, apply to my notebook. And it brings in the whole cleaning function. So you do your cleaning and you just hit and forget in some senses about all that cleaning that you did. I was very, very impressed, because I know it's not doing it for you still. Maybe we'll get there someday, right? But what it is doing is it's making it so much easier, right? And there's also a list of cleaning things that you might want to do, which might then prompt you for what you can do in other places. Yeah.
Will it only do with pandas or with polars?
Oh, pandas. Yes, just pandas at the moment. I don't know what plans they've got for other things, but I did notice when you actually click on it, it says like loading pandas data frames. So there must be something that we've focused on that for now. This is very new, because like I've literally just seen it. Well, it might not be.
This is the biggest pain point.
It is, right? Yeah, like I said it to Lee. I didn't get the reaction, Lee, that I was expecting. If I'm honest. Yes. Good company, people. Good company. We need to talk after. Right. Final point, future-proof your business. So what did I say before, right? We moved from basic analytics. And basic analytics isn't easy. I don't like using that word. And then we might have moved to predictive analytics and modeling with some of the data science stuff. But don't let that be where you end. If real-time analytics works for you, real-time analytics is tricky and it's niche, right? Like there's only certain workloads that would need real-time analytics. How real-time is real-time is the question I always used to get asked about that. Real-time analytics is an exciting one. There's loads of stuff to be done in the data science space. I mean, if we're looking at now generative AI, what will ever come next, you know what I mean? That's all going to sit in that data science space as well. And then considering that governance and administration underneath, as your business grows and as your data grows, more importantly, so does that security around it, right? The security is at the base level. The security is your enterprise. That's how important it is. And that's why I actually think it's most important now for startups and small businesses, because that is a whole specialism, governance and administration, a whole specialism. And I think it's quite difficult for data people to be able to feel totally confident that everything they're doing is governed, secure, PII, GDPR, all these different things. And I think this could help us quite a lot. I have like 1,000 links. This is someone else's slide, if you didn't guess. But it's, for me, take a picture of that, loads of ak.ms links. You just type that in and you'll find all of these great resources. In Liam's wonderful blog about this, that he'll bring the QR code up again. There is the learning path on Learn around Microsoft Fabric. Go and do that. It gives you a really good overview of each part of Fabric because it's quite a big platform and it will just show you what is possible in some senses. So with that, I'm going to hand over to the most exciting part of the day, which is the Founders Hub panel. So yeah, thank you so much. I'm around at the end, I'll be hanging around. So if you've got any questions, come find me. Thank you very much.
Right, we've had a quick change around between the panel and Anne-Claire. Purely because of the AV equipment, we need to change it all over. So Anne-Claire is going to give a fantastic overview of Microsoft Founders Hub. Sorry for the panelists, this is only just realized this one, but it'll be very quick. So I'll hand over to Anne-Claire.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. So it's going to take only 3-4 minutes. Again, I'm delighted to be with you today. So my name is Anne-Claire Bianco. I'm part of the Microsoft for Startup team. And I'm going to try to do a very quick overview of our program. So as the name is mentioning, we have a program called Microsoft for Startup Founders Hub. It's a hub. So we are really trying to put all of the benefits and support on that platform. We are really trying to help anyone with an idea, early stage, through ideation to exit, to get support and benefit through that platform. So if you have an idea, if you're prototyping, if you have an MVP, if you have found customer product market fit, then you will be able to find and you will be allocated into one of those 4 levels. Once you are applying to the program and based on your application and your stage, you will get Azure credits, Microsoft 365 benefit and tooling, as my colleague presented, and also third-party benefits. So whether, for instance, on level 1, you are not very technical and you want to build your application, you will have access to Bubble, for instance, then all of the other amazing tooling that my colleague presented in GitHub, OpenAI. I was talking to someone in the audience earlier in the networking, and Sarada, if you want to start building your investment network, data room. So again, depending on your stage, you will be allocated into the right level. What we want to make sure is that once you are part of Founders Hub, let's say you are on develop, you will receive a certain amount of credits, Azure credits. If you're ready to go into the 3rd level, you will need to request on the platform why you're ready. There is a little bit of additional question we are asking you, because we always want to make sure that you are part of this program at the right time. So this amazing platform. So when you are on Founders Hub, there is a section called Benefits. Again, it's just to make sure that with all of the support and benefits we are providing you, you will be able to activate and redeeming all of the different benefits part of your level. Then there is this section Develop, where you can see your Azure consumption, where you are at, and also you will have access to an amazing technical team called Azure Pairing. So again, on top of the amount of benefits that you can have, we are supporting you with technical specific questions. So if you are on ideation, how do you get started on Azure? How do you, if you want to have an architecture review, if you want to have a review of your roadmap, if you want to migrate, if you want to be multi-cloud, this team will be able to help you. What is amazing is that they are technical, right? And those sessions are unlimited as well. So whenever we are talking to founders, yes, we have a lot of things going on in that platform, but this team will be able to help you on a technical question. And finally, we have something called the Microsoft Expert Network. I'm quite proud of this platform because this is something additional that we are providing. We have more than 450 Microsoft employees who are volunteering to help startups on a one-to-one basis. It's a global platform. Again, you can have people from France, from the UK, United States, and on Founders Hub. Again, you will need to go on the platform. You can filter on the region, on the language, on the industry, and based on your challenges, you request someone that you find interesting based on your question, and they will reply to you whether they are available to help you. Something to know, 80% of those experts have a startup experience, and some of them even 20 years of experience working with startups. I put some of them on the spot. I mentioned to one of you in the audience that Miha Baldwin, he's my manager, but also he's an ex-serial entrepreneur. He has one of his startup that has exited. So maybe tomorrow he's going to be fully booked, because if you're part of Founders Hub, you will want to meet him. But others are super amazing to talk to. They have expertise, industry expertise. Sally Frank. She's amazing in healthcare. If you are following her on LinkedIn, you will also find a lot of amazing content that she's sharing on our cloud about healthcare. So again, the more you're engaging with the platform and our expert, the more you will be comfortable, hopefully, in our program. To apply, we put the QR code here, if you have any question, I will be here as well for the next part of the networking session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, Microsoft for Startups is a fantastic program that we run here at Microsoft, and this leads really quite nicely into the panel talk, which we should have now. So I want to introduce Darshna, who is an MVP here at Microsoft, and we have got a couple of others. We've got El-Sheikh, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and we have got Thelma on. I can't say that, sorry. I don't want to try butchering that one. You want to make your way up to the front and take a sit down. If you have any questions for Amy, Lee, or Anne-Claire, ask them now if you're in the room, because we just need to switch over some of the AV a little bit. So if you have any questions, fire away, please.
Okay, thanks everyone for sticking around and joining us. I'm sure this panel event will be worth your while speaking to these great entrepreneurs. Okay, so just before we start then, I guess I'll put into context a little bit. I think we can kind of all agree a combination of data, compute, and advanced algorithms have led to the rise in events such as the release of ChatGPT, which gained 1 million users in just 5 days. And a recent study by McKinsey kind of exemplified the potential it has from a commercial perspective. So they analysed 63 different use cases across multiple different industries, and basically came to the conclusion that it will add between around 4.4 billion to the UK economy. So the potential is quite exciting. So with that, I would like to introduce our panelists, Thelma, Onyeka, and Tim El-Sheikh. So guys, can you give us a little bit of an introduction about yourselves and what inspired you to start a startup in AI?
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Really great to be here. I'm Thelma, as Darshna introduced, and I set up Akama to solve a dilemma that millions of students around the world face. Am I in the right career? Will it lead to a job? How am I going to support myself over 3 to 5 years? And then also in parallel, what companies face. So we're talking about AI. Do we have enough skill sets to actually meet all the ambitions we've been talking about coming through? Are they in the UK, which is a really big question? And ultimately, how do we actually match those two cohorts? And some of you might be wondering why it's called Akama. It's named after my father, who was orphaned before his first birthday and was raised by a very small village in Nigeria. He went on to get a very niche engineering scholarship, which changed his life, and it's probably the reason I'm here with you guys today. And for us, the big picture is using technology innovation to actually build a village behind millions of students around the world. And it's really the perfect time to do that in a kind of cost-effective way as well.
Actually, I can vouch for that. Yesterday, I did a talk about AI at the school, surrounded, I think, 16 to 18-year-olds talking about AI. And literally, after the event, they actually mocked me to ask me exactly the same questions they just talked about. So, yeah, great. So, Tim, thank everybody for being here. I founded a company called Nebuli. It's fairly new, it's only 4 years old, but I'm actually a tech entrepreneur for almost 21 years. I actually discovered AI back in 1997, so a long time ago. As a biomedical scientist, that's my main background. So at the time, we used to use data mining techniques to decode animal genomes. But until that point, for me, the AI was gaming. That was the point I was like, okay, I need to do that. So when I graduated, qualified as a biomedical scientist, I did my MSc in computer science, and then decided to quit my biomedical science career, which melted the brains of a lot of my family members, as you would imagine. Because 20 years ago, being an entrepreneur, it was basically, in their eyes, you couldn't find a proper job. So the fact that I actually had a proper job and I quit and became an entrepreneur was like crazy. But that's what an entrepreneur is all about, being crazy. So AI is really kind of like being part of my career for 20 years. But I've seen quite a few problems in the market over the years, and Nebula is very different as a business. I exited just over a year ago. It's the first time where I have no investors. We made a decision with my founders that Nebula will be an investor-free company, because I strongly believe that the future of AI actually comes down to trust. And what we learned from our customers is that they actually trust us more than most other companies because we have no investors. And I'll talk about that later.
Thanks, Thelma. Thanks, Tim. That brings me nicely onto my second point, actually, Tim. So within AI, it's kind of rapidly advancing, and we're seeing a lot of kind of uncertainty and, in some cases, nervousness around the redundancies, whether we can trust AI, what the potential future is going to look like for us. So with that, when you're in the kind of AI startup area, what kind of challenges do you see, and how have you overcome them?
Well, the reason actually we created Nebula back in 2019. At the time, actually all the way up to 2022, if you have to come to an event like this and ask people, when I say AI, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I can tell you 99% of the time they'll say Terminator. And if it's in a technical, very well-versed audience like this one, they would tell me robots. Now, I can guarantee you everybody will say ChatGPT. To me, that's progress. And the reason why we actually set up Nebula is because we thought there's a major misunderstanding of what AI is, but more importantly, what it is not. The media and Hollywood completely overhype the things that AI is not. And that's why there's this general perception. And in fact, many failed investments over the years that want to do AI because people thought they can do things they actually cannot do. So the mission that we had at the beginning of Nebula, we wanted to educate the markets. Entrepreneurs, enterprises, governments, that we advise the government, the current government, with the regulatory aspects of things as well. And then we found out that you really have to be quite blunt and honest, to the extent that one journalist described me a couple of years ago that I'm an anti-AI AI entrepreneur. I'm not anti-AI, I'm just anti-AI hype. I'm very much pro-AI. For me, the hype, I believe, will kill AI. That's why I want to fight the hype. So that's basically what Nebula is about. As a start, I know we've kind of been progressing from that point.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I'm a non-technical founder. So the last couple of years, I mean, I've worked in tech for the last 12, 13 years, but the last couple of years have been kind of explosive in terms of the branding, right? So really, if you can think about where we are today, there is a template for AI transition. We didn't have that before. I don't think we need any more language models, to be honest. I think we're good. But I think it's really important that, like, with any technology, there's been so much hype. We've talked about this already, whether it's Web3, NFTs, like, I can list so many that there's been a lot of hype. But what's really different about where we are today is actually with the advent of kind of ChatGPT and the understanding of what it does, is the first time that lay people, non-tech people, can start to think about use cases. And that's like really what's essential, because if you don't have use cases outside of gaming or kind of niche things that are running in the back end but nobody understands, we won't be able to really exploit the opportunity that actually AI provides, like curing disease, helping small businesses not need massive workforces to be successful, and helping someone like me to understand exactly what my CTO is up to, who should probably be on here talking about stuff. So I think I see it in a very, very positive way when it comes to our startup, because I think we can accomplish a lot of things that need a lot of data, but we don't need to have that massive backing or lots and lots of investors that's actually supporting us.
Some great advice there. So you guys obviously start part of Microsoft's Founders Hub. Could you maybe go into a little bit more about your journey with Founders Hub, and why you particularly affiliated with it? What kind of benefits did you feel like it helped your businesses grow?
Sure. One of the things we do with Akama is we think that students shouldn't spend all their time filling out lots and lots of different forms everywhere, right? So the first thing I love about Microsoft for Startup is the actual application. It took me like 3 minutes. And it's all part of our ethos of like, why is everyone wasting time talking about lots and lots of stuff, right? So that was a big one. I think more fundamentally, I got access to OpenAI before it was trendy. So I'm always like, wow, I was using this events, and also, I think I love the way that you can actually scale with as well. Scale as well. So starting with things that you really need in the beginning to build. I think I have a co-founder who's a technical machine learning engineer. I sell, he builds, and he has stuff that he can build with. I have stuff I can sell. I mean, the team we've recruited use LinkedIn free credits and ads and things like that. And I think that balance has to exist in the business. Like, businesses today can't afford for you to have genius ideas that can't be executed, can't be sold. There are so many amazing ideas that didn't have the kind of other pieces. So I think the overview of all the different opportunities and benefits you have is actually really important, so that people say, like, start with the 0 credits, but then, hey, you need to go and get equity split across your team. So I think that holistic approach is what really attracted me.
Yeah, thanks, Thelma. But also, because of the nature of the work that we do, but a lot of companies that we work with, we try to work with companies that don't necessarily have engineers or machine learning experts. But everybody wants to be on the AI bandwagon at the moment. So we have to help them and be quite independent. So we're not sort of recommending Microsoft exclusively. So we also have credits, for example, with Google Cloud, just for transparency, AWS, etc. But I personally prefer Microsoft's, not because I'm here, but actually they're offering a lot more than their competitors. So, for example, as I was just saying, the fact that you have access to all these different tools. You see with Google, for example, you can access loads of Google tools, which is great, but you can't go beyond that. So with Microsoft, actually, we can go outside Microsoft. For example, LinkedIn is part of Microsoft, but nonetheless, it's a product that is everybody is familiar with. But also, from our customers' perspective, most of our customers, they use Azure. So for us, it's really important that we understand how can Azure work best for them. And we do quite a lot of R&D work. We're a research company. That's basically our sort of business model. So we need a lot of compute power. And again, we had very early access to ChatGPT on Azure. So that allowed us to play around. And we actually built our own chatbot called Nano, which is free. You can just play around with it. And we kind of doing different research with that. So I think Microsoft made a much bigger sort of commercial and technical impact as opposed to just technical impact. So I think that's why I was quite happy with it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you're getting quite an enriched experience, particularly as some of the kind of networks Claire highlighted. You've got a lot of expertise to draw upon. That's great. So in terms of the kind of, I guess, hype around AI, you guys said that you're kind of avoidant of that in some ways because you want to illustrate the value creation to ensure that it continues, essentially, and people can make use of the positives of AI. With specific focus on the kind of industry verticals or specific problems, are there any kind of areas that you see across industries that need particular attention? If anybody here was thinking of creating a startup, where would you kind of point them towards? I'll start.
I know you're going to have lots more ideas than me, but I had a chat at networking about this, and everyone should start thinking about it. The demo was really good on Copilot, and then the demo on Power BI. But because we've branded AI and have that little sparkle sitting everywhere, there's a temptation to bring that into B2B. There's a massive problem with that, right? Because if your client thinks that your demo comes in 5 seconds and will now charge you on the stall as you optimize your business, you really need to find the balance between like optimizing, being more productive, and then what is your market value if you're a B2B SaaS company, right? Because everything is going to be cannibalized, right? You have to be very careful when you're thinking about that. We offer a value. We have a SaaS piece that's really important for companies and businesses who are looking at students. And of course, they want to look at the students' transcripts. We know how to read transcripts really quickly. But there's one thing telling your company that you can do this in a really accurate way. There's another thing telling the company that it's taking you 2 seconds to do it, right? So as business people, your ideas should be monetized in the right way. Your idea to use a platform like Microsoft to do that quickly should also be valued. But don't undersell and undervalue the work you've put in to come up with those ideas in the first place. And then also for me personally, my biggest kind of industry area that outside of what I'm currently doing is the kind of medical field, computer vision. I have family members who've suffered from cancers that have been manifested on the skin. Being able to diagnose at 97% accuracy is huge for dermatologists. So I think that sector is just enormous for making impact in society. And then the second one, of course, is education. Everyone learns differently, thinks differently. Why has schooling and university stayed the same over the last 150 years? It's really insane if you think about it. People that are slow starters end up, being multi-billion, startup owners, right? So surely we have to be able to use AI to work in the education sector to change things so that people can have learning relevant to the way they think. And we're not seeing a lot of that happen right now. And I do think there's actually a very monetizable business there as well, because people care about their children and education. So those are the 2 areas.
I'll add to the education because of my experience yesterday. One of the things that I did in the class, and there are loads of teachers there, and I specifically asked the teachers, please allow the students to speak up, right? Whatever they say, don't hold it against them, and they gave me the pinky promise. And when I asked the kids, okay, do you guys use ChatGPT? Yes, like almost all of them said yes. And then every single one says, okay, I'm using it to write my homework. Somebody else was saying, actually, I tried to write an essay with it, but it's absolutely crap, right? They were really vocal, so it was quite fun. But the thing that what happened is debate, and somehow we kind of came up with this sort of interesting consensus where they were saying, you know what, we think now we need to understand what AI is about. Nobody's teaching us at school what AI is for. Is it hype? Is it real? Is it safe? Is it dangerous? I mean, we just don't know. But they think, well, at least, how about if we change our homework now? So instead of telling us to write an essay, tell us, come up with a prompt for ChatGPT that would write an essay that is actually not crap, and then use your critical thinking to analyze the article or the essay, then Google it to make sure that it's accurate. And I thought, this is the future. This is how we're going to be working. And this is the point that I always like to push with Nebuli from day one. Actually, we've been talking about responsible AI, ethical AI as sort of our key focus from day one before everybody was even talking about it. And the key reason we're saying this because if you start looking about or thinking about AI is about replacing your workers or to be more efficient, what does that really mean? I'm talking about what we've seen in Hollywood where studios try to screw over their writers, which turns out to be a really bad idea. Right? And I think there's this. I think businesses generally now need to start to understand what does efficiency mean. Do you mean that you want to get rid of your core workers, which is not a good idea most of the time, or do you need to teach them how to use AI in a way that makes them more productive? And that's why actually in terms of branding, I think what Microsoft is doing here is actually pretty spot on. It's the Copilot idea. This is what AI is today, and it's always been like that, and it's always going to be for our lifetime. I'm not a big advocate for AGI, so sorry, that's not going to work, because a lot of people have been trying to do AGI over the years, believe me, and there are loads of projects that just went to the .com period back in the early 2000s, because that's when I became an entrepreneur. And what I like to tell companies across all markets, it's like right now you could be either the Netflix during the .com era or Blockbuster. We all know what happened to Blockbuster. Adopt AI, you'll be the Netflix. If you don't adopt AI, your competitors adopt AI, you'll be the Blockbuster within the next 2 years. So this is my advice. So keep it responsible, but absolutely start looking at how can you apply AI in a way that optimizes your business, your sales, productivity. Whatever is the problem that you have in your company, figure out where does AI fit in within that particular problem, rather than looking at this holistic approach, oh, this AI, this magical solution that's going to give me, I don't know, something. It won't. So you have to be very, very strategic about it. Think like what the kids were thinking.
Some great advice there. So kind of taking what generically AI is important, but you kind of need to apply it to the problems for it to be valuable. Great. So in terms of your experience, just going, I guess, into a bit more depth, could you maybe speak about any challenges that you might have overcome?
Generally, in terms of the company or with like data and using technology? I think that when it comes to building a company, timing is super important. I think I mentioned before that people just happen to be at the right time, and like I feel like we kind of hit a little bit of a right time moment. But I think it's really important to make sure that everyone who's working in a startup right now, make sure that you realize that startup life is a slug. There's a lot of challenges in terms of finding that sweet spot and like making sure that when you go down a particular pathway, it's worth it because you can invest a lot of time. In our case, we look back at when we first started building Akama, it was pre kind of the horrific cost of living crisis that we're currently in. And we already thought that students weren't getting enough help. And we also thought there was a win-win scenario here where every company I talked to was like, skills gap, right? There's no skills gap. They're just a skills mismatch. There's lots of people who have technical skills. They're just doing, English or something. Like, the people are in a kind of different pathway to one that they could be. But the issue is more on a practical level. It's like when the cost of living crisis got worse, we now have, hundreds and hundreds of students acutely asking for support, right? And before we had envisioned the world of like, okay, this is a challenge, but let's balance it. And so it's like the other scenario where you have lots of passengers, not enough cars, right? And so making sure that you build, especially if you have a two-sided marketplace, making sure that you build so that they're both moving in the same speed, slowing some stuff down so that you can actually have the right kind of market fit. And that's really, really difficult. And we've worked a lot to really figure out like what parts of what we're trying to build are ready for both of those sides of the marketplace, and then slow the product build to actually align to that. So it's more of a tactical problem. And I just hope over time, as we build that client base and there's been a lot of demand, then we can actually ramp up and show students that, people do care about them finishing the AI module in computer science, and there are jobs available, and they're actually valuable for them to follow a particular, path that is out there.
I don't know, challenges 20 years. I think, because I'm thinking about my challenges like 20 years ago, but it was a very different world. I mean, being an entrepreneur is a very, very lonely place. Really, really lonely. And I suppose in your case, because obviously it was in an era where people, as I just said earlier, that they look at you as an entrepreneur because you couldn't get a proper job. So the level of support that we actually have today just did not exist. So it was a very lonely place. Like I basically had to kind of chase the right people all the time. And that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, sleepless nights, and you just have to persevere. So I think for me, the number one skill for an entrepreneur is perseverance, because you can get punched and kicked in the face so many times, and you have to take it in, smile, and you move forward nonetheless. But at the same time, like I'm saying, you have to be really strategic. Don't get distracted by all of the hype. I've been bitten so many times by hypes in the past. And I just learned that actually, try to, like, when we build Nebuli, for example, the challenge we have right now is the fact that we have no investors. They want to figure out where do we get the cash from. So which means we have to focus on getting customers from day one. We actually started getting customers before we launched Nebuli. So my general advice for startups is don't chase investors from day one. And a lot of sort of the business advice magazines or whatever, they tell you, oh, come up with an MVP and go and pitch to investors. No, pitch to customers. Because I can tell you right now, one of you probably heard about the 9 out of 10 companies die every day or something like that, right? The reality is more like 99% of companies die. And guess what? All of these companies are fully funded. So they didn't die because they didn't get VC funds. They died because they had no customers. Customer is king, right? So get your customer first. So you have the MVP. If it's crappy, that's fine. You get the MVP, get customers, talk to your customers. That's another thing because I'm somewhat introverted, not anymore, but before I was scared of talking to people. I was like, oh, maybe I have to talk to the CTO of some biotech company. Right now, I just go after them. And you have to do that. Because if you don't talk to them, who's going to talk to them? Right? That's your job. So it's basically a lot of chasing, a lot of branding. But ultimately, it all comes down to your product and the service, the MVP and the customer. If that works out and you feel then, okay, what is the next stage? I mean, I'm not saying VCs are bad, by the way, just for the records, right? There's time and place. Like, for example, let's say if you're working in a fintech market, right? It makes sense for you to have bankers as investors because they can just open up loads of major doors for you, right? Like, for example, because of my biotech background, I have connections that connected me to Nestle from day one. So that's really important. So sometimes investors can be useful, but the point I'm making is that you really have to focus on the customer. That's a really hard thing to do. Going out there to talk to people, maybe 20 years ago was easier because people were hyped up about tech. There's a bit of if you tell people the internet, they'll say the internet is not the .com thingy, right? Today, I think we live in an era where end users are the most tech-savvy end users ever. So you can't impress them with the brand new paradigm-shifting, patent-pending, ground-breaking, blah, blah, blah. No one cares. Trust me, guys. No one cares. I tried this 10 years ago. You're like, yeah, whatever. Next. Right? So it's really about the value proposition. But to sell that value, you've got to talk to them. Talk to your users. Even like if you've got, say, you've got 100,000 users, create like an event like this, invite them, get loads of spaces. Yeah, it costs money, but you've got to do it. You talk to every single one of them. They might hate your product, even better, because they'll give you feedback, right? I personally, people say to me, Tim, everything is great. I actually don't like that. I actually want people to say, Tim, this is really bad. Oh, cool. Tell me why. So that means you have to put your ego away. Absolutely. Get rid of your ego. Get rid of all of the, the Elon Musk wannabe type behavior, right? And this is tough. Like, I'm saying, I'm kind of joking about that. This is really, really tough. Because when you're on your own, if you've never done this before, like I said, you're going to get punched and kicked in the face. And it is challenging. And the advice I would give you is forgive yourself sometimes when you screw up, right? Because that does impact your mental health. Step back sometimes, do some exercise once in a while. Just, allow yourself to kind of deflate. Because it is a pressure cooker 24/7. So for me, that has always been the biggest challenge.
Thank you both. It's been really insightful kind of hearing about your journeys. I have one last question for you. So if you were to give upcoming entrepreneurs any kind of advice as to resources that they could leverage, particularly within an ecosystem to keep up to date on the latest trends and how they can integrate within their business, are there any resources that you could push them towards?
Just to link to what Tim said about thinking about customers, I think right at the beginning, I think it's really important to look at the ways that your product will be delivered to customers. I really loved the demo of like the email SAP flow, which will put a few companies out of business. But I really think that if you're a technical founder, spend a lot of time on the non-technical delivery side and use the tools that will help you figure out, like, okay, I need a chatbot because this isn't always going to work. I think someone I don't know if it's Y Combinator, but it was saying, like, you build or you sell. And, like, if you're building, know how to sell with the tools, right? The selling integrations, the things that will help you scale. We've had situations in jobs that I've worked in where a startup is actually too successful and loses customer because they're not able to take any more customers and they service them, right? So like if you're doing an amazing job with your product and it's like smashing it out of the park, like be careful to scale with your customers, right? So that's why I think those tools are super useful. Making sure you have workflows, making sure you have an operational leader who can actually help you prepare for success. And this is more philosophical, but if you are not planning to be huge, what's the point of starting the startup? So you have to actually prepare to psychologically, like for success, right? If you don't prepare for success, you're not going to use those tools. But if you prepare for success, Microsoft is a really good partner because they're all about scale, right? They're all about the ultimate Outlook integration that's going to help you when you have a larger company. So I feel like that's a really important way to go into it. Like you have to try your best to think that this might be wildly successful.
Actually, this reminds me of an interesting point I did yesterday with the kids. One of the kids was saying to me, "Oh, so if you're an entrepreneur, that means you're going to be super rich, right?" That's actually relevant to the point you just made, because there's a huge difference between making money and being an entrepreneur. It's actually quite easy to make money. There's lots of books again, YouTube channels, like the secrets of making money. There's no secret. There's supply and demand. Yeah. If somebody's demanding something, you've got that something. You're paying for that something. You don't need to be an entrepreneur to do that, right? Rishi Sunak is the richest prime minister we've ever had. Isn't an entrepreneur? He's a banker, right? Lawyers make lots of money. So entrepreneurship is not about making money. Of course, you have to. But being an entrepreneur is about creating an impact. You're going into a market to create some kind of a ripple effect. Boom, right? This is what an entrepreneur is. Because at the end of the day, you do that because you want to make a big difference. And that obviously then starts scaling into this sort of new highs, if you like. So, and of course, that should make money at some point. It's really all about impact. But to go back to your question, I think it's probably the easiest period now to be an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. Because even if you don't apply for the startup founders hub, I think it automatically gives you free credits, and all of the other big cloud servers give you lots of free credits as well without pitching or anything like that. So there's loads and loads of free resources. But I think also would advise try and read a lot of the news that's happening around AI. Okay, there's a lot of hype, but be aware of these things. One of the things I give you a tip that what I like to do, like I use Apple News a lot, and I created a library for all of the machine learning, AI news, technical side of things as well, and it just updates me every time. And I just read that first thing in the morning every day just to see what's going on. And again, it's free; you don't have to subscribe to anything, and it's great. So lots of reading, and I think these services are really fantastic. You should try them.
The very last thing is also please take shortcuts. Like you don't have to be a hero. Like if Copilot works, like that's why reading the news is going to really help. Like there's certain things that people think they need to do on their own, but like it's been solved for. There are enough language models. Stop using translators. Sorry, any translators in here. Like use the shortcuts because you're a startup. Big companies can afford to take their time and be, a dinosaur and a big ship moving slowly. But just use everything that's available, and that keeps changing every single day. So keep on top of what's coming, so that you can actually, get there quicker.
That's great. Thank you both for sharing all of your insights and experiences.
Amazing stuff. Thank you ever so much for you guys. That was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed that one. I'm just going to switch the camera back a little bit towards me because there we go. All right. All right. Well, this camera. Oh, crikey. I don't know what it's doing. It doesn't. It wants to do a 360. All right, bear with us while we get this one. No, in fact, don't worry about the camera. We'll leave the camera off. We'll just go with the slides. Yeah. Right then. So we've got a few more slides to go. That is it for the speakers, though. That is the end of the session for the speakers. A massive thank you to everybody. This goes out to my colleagues who presented and all the panelists as well. That was really insightful. I promise we didn't pay
any of you to say any of that nice stuff, I promise. But it is great to hear that kind of feedback coming from people that actually use Microsoft for startups and the Founders Hub and your journey and understanding how it is you got from where you wanted to be to where you are now and the way that you went about it. So what's up next? Well, at Microsoft, we're running a whole number of events. This is the first of many through October. So we've got Microsoft Build AI Day, which is happening in the Excel in London. Is anybody here going to that one? Oh, amazing. I was not expecting that. Right, 10 out of 10. Thank you. Well, unfortunately, for those who aren't, it's sold out. So unfortunately, you cannot attend anymore. The wait list is as long as a Costco receipt. Hats off if you ever got one of those before. On the 26th of October, we are running another event here in the reactor, so floor 8. And this is going to be the practical guide to building a successful AI startup. So much like the second half of this meetup today, it is going to be very much based around how you can build your startups. So going from 0 to step 1 to step 2 and how you can go through it. And we will be doing a rundown. I'll be doing a rundown of Build AI. So if you do miss that, please do come here because I'll be going through all the lovely stuff that we're going to be sharing at that wonderful conference event. On the 14th to the 17th of November, we've got Microsoft Ignite. So hats off to anybody who has already signed up to that one. But that's going to be a really exciting event as well. Of course, we've got some Microsoft who have already signed up. So that's going to be a really awesome event. If you haven't, I'm going to share a resource slide in a minute so you can go ahead and scan it and sign up. But before I do that, our partners in crime, GitHub Universe, or GitHub rather, are having their annual conference, GitHub Universe, in November, and we've got a wonderful cloud skills challenge going on. So if you want to sign up and get your AI on and figure out what's going on and have a bit of fun, so sign up for that one. You'll be notified when it goes live. It starts, I think, 17 days. Don't quote me on that, but near enough. So I'll give you a second to scan that one. That'll take you to a page. If you just sign up, or rather sign up, you just click join the challenge. We're trying to get a bit of friendly competition going. So yes. Sign up for it now, and you'll be notified as soon as it goes live, and then you can sort of take the modules and go through it. It's all about Microsoft Learn, and it will help you understand a little bit more about what we're doing with AI, some of the announcements at GitHub Universe, and some of the really cool stuff between our partnership with Microsoft and GitHub. I think everyone's put their phone down. Awesome. And the final QR code, which you can scan for all the resources today, which I've popped into a post, which I saw. I did show this one earlier, so if you scanned it, no, just scan it again. Otherwise, go to the link aka.ms/AI Decode resources. And that is going to have our contact details. So if you want to get in contact with any of the speakers or take any of the Learn modules that we've got, any of the cool stuff which we showed today in some of the sessions, you can grab it there. Otherwise, that nicely ends our session today. A massive thank you for you for all turning up. And I hope you enjoyed your evening. You've now got, I'd say, another 20 minutes to network and have a bit of fun, and then we'll all leave. Thank you very much.